What's up guys, ATCG here, welcome back to Yugioh Deck of the Day. Today we're doing an update on pretty much my favorite deck. I've said this in every single profile, but I just love this deck so much. I'm doing an update on Valkyrie. Some people have requested it, and Konami doesn't really want to print Valkyrie Sigrun. We've seen Ignition Assault, we've seen Dual Overload, she's still not there, maybe she's in Eternity Code, but until that comes out, here is pretty much how the deck should be played, and this is a completely different build from what I've showed you so far. Usually everyone thinks Valkyries is a go second deck. You just try to OTK with your double battle phase. Well, this is how the deck is supposed to be played. It's not the most optimal way. I've tried building a deck like that so many times, but it just is never consistent enough for me. It's more of a casual, but I want to make this deck as competitive as viable as possible so I can compete with it, and this is what I've come up with. This is a going first Valkyries, pretty much a lockdown version, and I will explain exactly how the Valkyries help you do that. So let's begin. And before, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and comment down below which updates you want to see next. So now, here's the list. First off, 1 Brunhilde. She's the strongest Valkyrie. She gains 500 attack for every monster your opponent controls. She's an effect by spell cards, and when your opponent declares an attack, she loses 1000 defense permanently, and all your Valkyries won't be able to be destroyed by battle this turn. 1 Erda. She is basically a pseudo-macrocosmos. As long as she's on the field, special summoned by a Valkyrie card effect, your only card your opponent that will be destroyed will be going banished zone instead of the graveyard, and all your opponent's monsters lose 1000 attacks, so it's very easy to beat over monsters while she's on the field. 1 Ersta. She's a DD Crow as a quick effect. Once you have another Valkyrie on the field, you can banish an opponent's monster from the graveyard, and she will copy that monster's attack. And also, if she's special summoned from the hand by a spell effect, you get your Mischief of the Time Goddess back from your graveyard, so you can recycle it to use it again if you go into a really grind game. 1 Zweite. Upon summon, she pops a monster your opponent controls, and she also has another effect that when she attacks, after the damage step, you can get a continuous spell from your graveyard back to your hand. I also do have 1 target, so I can make use of that effect as well. 1 Vierte. In a normal build, I definitely recommend running 3 Vierte because it's a really good normal summon, but in this build, well, you have more normal summons than the actual Valkyries, and I think just 1 is perfect. You can take her out from the deck whenever you want, and she has the excavation effect, which is not the most useful effect. The most useful effect is the floating, because you can attack on any of your opponent's stronger monsters and she will be destroyed, and you special summon any Valkyrie you want from the deck. And she also has the excavate effect where for every other Valkyrie you have on the field, you can excavate 1, and if you hit a normal spell and trap, you can add to your hand, the rest will go to the grave, otherwise they will all go back to the deck, but she's still a pretty good card. 1 Funfte. Funfte is here mainly because of her level. I will see exactly why I need to run every level of the Valkyries in the deck, but her effect is not bad. She is basically a Foolish Burial Goods if you have another Valkyrie on the field, and she also boosts all your Valkyries by 200 for each of your opponent's banished cards. And now for the 3-offs, we have 3 Valkyrie Dritte. The searcher of the deck, on summon, she searches any Valkyrie card, that includes of course Rite of the Valkyries, and she gains 200 attack for every one of your opponent's banished monsters, so she can become really big against certain matchups. 3 Zekte. She special summons a Valkyrie from the deck upon special summon. And the good thing about her is that you don't really need to rely on your Rite of the Valkyries because there are many ways to get her out of your hand. And she also is important because she lets you get the appropriate level you want from your deck, and I'll explain why the levels matter and why I mentioned it over and over again. Because basically, there's one monster in particular that you try to tutor out turn 1, no matter which hand you open, and I will show you that monster right now. And she also has another effect that you can send the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to the grave. If you know what your opponent's playing, then if that doesn't help them, then go for it, but otherwise I would not recommend doing it blindly because it might end up hurting you more than your opponent. And now the monster that you need to bring out ASAP in this deck is 3 Venus, because she gets you to your sign balls, and it's important to be able to get to your big link plays if you want to do the lockdowns. And she's a level 3 fairy, light fairy, and that's very important because I play downbeat entrance modify in the deck, so you need to be able to bring out the appropriate Valkyrie depending on which spell you have in your hand, so you can tag her down or level her up to get to your Venus. And of course, because we play Venus, we also have the 3 Mystical Shine Balls. Even if you draw these cards, they're not that bad because they're level 2s, so you can either transmodify into Venus or you can downbeat to Zexte. So you can pretty much do whatever you want with them if you have the appropriate spells in your hand. And if you draw 2, you can Link Spider and then special the Aileron from the hand, so you can at least make a Phoenix play. So it's not the worst scenario in the world if you end up drawing these. And of course Venus special summons them from the hand, so if you can have access to Venus, then you can get them out from your hand even this way. The pretty big win condition of the deck, so is Christia. If you can get her out, then some decks just auto-lose, because if they don't have a card like Dark Ruler No More, maybe an Impermanence, then they won't be able to play. It's not the easiest thing to get her out, because most of the times you will have to hard draw her or draw her with Scaldred to bring her out. Sigrun would really help because she's a level 9, so if you can bring her from the deck, you can downbeat into your Christia. You can transmodify right now with Brunhilde, but it's not the most consistent thing if you only have one live spell to bring her out from the deck. But again, if you can't bring her out, then that's pretty much the win button of the deck. And I also play a small Trickster engine, so we have 3 Candina. The reason Candina is here is because she's a level 4 that can give you access to a level 2 as well, and that's the appropriate levels you won't have access to, because you can transmodify your level 2s into your Venus and you can downbeat your level 4s into your Venus. And also, Candina gives you, with 1 card, 4 fairies in the grave, so if you open Candina Christia, then that's pretty much going to guarantee that Christia hits the board, because you can search your Lilybell and then special Lilybell. With Lilybell you summon Trickster Bloom, and then with these two you summon Barricade Board Blocker. Blocker will discard you another fairy, so with Candina, Lilybell, Bloom, and the fairy you discard with Barricade Board Blocker, that's 4 fairies in grave, so you can summon Christia. And of course the one Lilybell. Lilybell is more important than Corobane in this build, specifically because you can go into Bloom with her, and she's level 2, so you can transmodify into Venus or downbeat into Zexte. For the spells, play 1 Rite of the Valkyries with 1 Mischief of the Time Goddess. In a normal build, yes, of course, Rite is the best card in the deck, so you need to play 3. But again, like I said, this is a going first Valkyrie build, I'm not even trying to go second, so if you end up hard drawing any of these, they don't do anything for your combo, but they're still here just in case you go second or you get into the late game and you want that OTK potential, because this is something that you then can do very easily, so it doesn't make sense to cut it completely from the deck, just minimize it so it doesn't contradict with your actual strategy. Now for the spells that get out your Venus, we have 3 Transmodify. Transmodify can also get out Christia with Brunhilde, like I said, so that's why Zexte is really good, because she gives you the level you need, but mostly you will be using these to get your Venus out of the deck so you can get your Shine Balls and go for your big link plays. Same thing with Downbeat. Downbeat is a little bit inferior than Transmodify, mainly because, like I said, Sigrun is not out yet. Sigrun is a level 9, so once she's out, then you can special summon her from the deck with Zexte, then you can downbeat her into Christia, so it'll be a lot better, but still a really good card. And I think you need to max out on both of these just to make sure that you have a play every single game. 3 Celestial Transformation. This card is much better than Photon Lead, because Photon Lead gives you only access to level 4 lowers. This is actually a generic one, but it destroys the monster in the end phase, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to be using the monster you summon for link material anyway. If you do it during your opponent's turn, then basically you will be summoning Zexte on your opponent's turn, so you don't mind if she blows herself out during the end phase. You just want her to bring another one from the deck to be able to disrupt your opponent, so that's why Celestial Transformation is really good. And of course it's almost return, so if you have multiples, then you can bring out a lot of monsters from your hand. And you can even bring out Christia during your opponent's turn, just to stop them from special summoning during that turn, then Christia will destroy herself during the end phase, and then you cannot K them during the next turn. I play 1 Valhalla. The reason Valhalla is here is because of Funfte and Zweite, because you can send this card to the grave with Funfte and get it back with Zweite. And if you draw it, it's not a bad card, because you can bait your opponent by special summoning a Zexte, or thinking that you will summon Christia on them and will use a disruption on this card, then you can do your Venus play uninterrupted, so that's why I think Valhalla is really good. And it stays on the field, so if your opponent manages to clear your board, you can use it again during the next turn. 1 for 1 to get to your Zexte, out of the deck of course, and 1 Light Stage with 1 Terraforming, because, like I said, you need the Trickster engine in order to be able to do a lot of plays depending on the rest of your hand, so that's why these are here. And the backrow lock effect of Light Stage actually really good against certain matchups. Now let's go to the extra deck. We have 1 Imdak. Because of Venus, you need to be able to use your Shine Balls for summon this, so you can get different names for Appaloosa and Scaldred. 1 Link Spider, exact same reason, but it can also get your dead Shine Balls out of your hand if you haven't drawn multiples. 1 Link Rebo to link away your Zexte, so you can give you a down arrow so you can do your Nightmare plays and keep drawing cards. 1 Trickster Bloom for the combo I mentioned. If you open with Candina, Light Sage or Terraforming, then it basically means you can have 4 fairies in grave if you also have Christia. 1 Masquerena, because there are some hands where you can only special summon Zexte and it will give you 3 monsters on the field, so you can at least have some kind of disruption by summoning Masquerena, so you can threaten a Unicorn during your opponent's turn. And Masquerade's main purpose is not even to try to disrupt, is to force your opponent to enter their battle phase before they try to commit to the board because they're afraid of Unicorn. And that's a good enough win for you, because if your opponent enters the battle phase with something like a normal summon monster, you're not going to get OTK'd, so that's pretty much exactly what you need, so you can get your turn back to try to OTK your opponent back during the next turn. One Barricade Board blocker for the Trickstar combo, you discard a fairy and you have 4 in the grave. One Hip Ingen for the scenarios where you need that extra piece of damage to be able to OTK your opponent. For the Nightmares, we have Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Phoenix, and of course Nightmare Unicorn. Pretty standard. With Venus, it's very easy to bring them out and try to pop your opponent's board while also keep drawing cards. One Ingirsu, it's very easy to summon this card in this deck because you have a lot of monsters like Link Uribo or Link Spider that point down, so you can summon this if you don't want to go for Unicorn, because this can out problematic monsters like Avramax, which this deck has a huge problem against, and this is out to all the cards that basically your actual engine cannot deal with. One Appaloosa. This is basically the go-to play if you open with Venus or any way to get to Venus, especially if you do have Christia in your hands, because Venus gives you exactly 4 fairies in grave, so if you can end on Appaloosa Christia, that's pretty good, and Appaloosa, you usually summon her with 4 materials, so has 4 negates. But if you're feeling lucky and you don't want you don't have your Christia and you don't want to go for Appaloosa, then you can try to dig for your Christia with Scaldred. And the good thing about Scaldred is that even if you do this in a way that you don't have exactly 4 fairies in grave, it doesn't matter, because you can just summon Christia from your hand with Scaldred's effect. So it's a little bit more flexible, but still, it depends on how lucky you're feeling if you don't already have Christia in your hand. And the 2 Borals, because again, they're pretty good. Borload is good right now, mainly because Sleeper is in the format, because there are some decks that cannot deal with it, so if you can take the Sleeper, it's actually pretty good, and Boral Sword, because it's Boral Sword, you can do some really good OTKs with it. So, yep, that's the deck, guys. I hope you like it. It's probably the most competitive version of the deck I've ever made. You can try it out if you want to see exactly how it works. It's completely different from a normal Valkyrie build, but it's still Valkyries, so that's pretty much good enough for me. So, yep, if the Konami brings out Sigrun, the deck will be a lot better. If the Konami brings out Diviner of the Heralds, then the deck will be so much better, because you will be able to summon Calamities as well, so that will be another play. But until then, this is how the deck, I think, should be if you want to compete with it. And we'll see soon enough when Konami decides to bring out these new cards. So once again, if you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more content, comment down below which decks would you like to see a profile on, and we'll see you next time.